Hi there, and welcome to our first little lecture video. So this is going to correspond with chapter 1 in our book, Doing Ethics. So we're kind of looking at the big picture of what we're trying to accomplish in a class like this, the moral issues of capitalism. So our book comes at ethics and morality, moral theory, from a philosophical angle, which is appropriate. That's an important foundation for us to understand what's going on, thinking about moral issues. That is a specialty and expertise of philosophy. So that's where we start. And so the first few weeks of this class will be going through some stuff in this book. As we move through the course, we're going to go a little bit off script when it comes to the book and focus more on things that are within my wheelhouse as an economist, looking more at some applied issues. What are situations that come up within the business world, within the capitalist system that we have, that lead to these difficult moral questions? And so it's really a two-way exercise when we think about moral issues of capitalism. At least the way I'm approaching it, there's two different directions that goes. So one is, what can economics and the tools that we have within economics, this set of analytical tools to lay things out kind of mathematically with theory, to explore the realities of the world with empirical work, those are some things that economics can contribute to better understanding how people think about and engage in activities that deal with moral issues. So that's what can economics teach us about morality and how people approach it. So that's one direction. The other direction is, what are moral issues that are coming up because of the capitalist system that we have, because of the economic system we have in place in this country, and we'll talk some about other places in the world. What are moral issues that come up from that? So in one sense, we're looking at how economics can look at morality. In another sense, we're looking at what moral issues flow out of the economic system that we find ourselves in. And so that means that in some ways, the relationship between economics and morality is a two-way street. Now, if you've ever studied statistics, empirical work, you'll know that to study a relationship that's a two-way street like that makes it really hard to really be able to pin down relationships, which for our purposes is probably appropriate, frankly. It means you end up with relationships between things, but it's hard to clearly ascertain whether those relationships, whether one is causing the other or vice versa, or a mix of the two. So we see that all the time when we engage in empirical work. We look at something like the relationship between lockdowns or mask mandates in local or state governments, and we look at COVID infection rates, right? And so we can run statistical analysis to see if there's a statistical relationship between these different restrictions on people being able to move around and do things, whether they have to wear restrictive things like a mask, and whether we have a change in coronavirus infection rates, hospitalization, death, whichever metric you want to use. We can look at that relationship. It's hard to understand exactly what that relationship means if you're looking for a causal relationship, because it's going to go both ways to some extent, right? So to some extent, having restrictions, requiring people to wear masks, epidemiologists, virologists, they tell us that those things will make it less likely for more people to get infected. So therefore, we can expect this relationship between restrictions and a change, specifically more restrictions leading to lower numbers than would otherwise be there of infection rates, right? But there's a relationship going the other way too. If you're sitting in local government and you see coronavirus numbers going way up, you're way more likely to think, okay, we need to do something, we need to act, we need leadership, we need to implement restrictions on bars and dine-in at restaurants, and we need a mask mandate, etc., etc. So the relationship goes both ways, which makes it difficult to clearly pin down what the causal relationship is between the two. In some sense, we're going to run into that issue in this class when we're looking at economics and morality, because again, there's going to be elements of this relationship flowing both ways. So we may not be able to clearly define certain things. In a class like this, that's okay. It's okay that we don't come up with the answer, because as we'll see, there is rarely the correct answer for a lot of these issues that we're looking at. That doesn't mean it's worthless to spend time on it. In fact, I think it's a really worthwhile topic to wrap our heads around. It's some of the most important stuff that you can talk about, that you can think about, that you can make decisions about. So just because we may not come up with the correct answer for some of these big questions, even if we clarify our thinking a little bit, looking at these really big questions, that can be a substantial marginal gain in the way that you approach your other classes, in the way you think about jobs, your relationship with your family, all these different aspects of your life. Hopefully adding some analytical thinking to moral issues will help in a small way in lots of different realms in your life. So I'm not saying this is going to be a life-changing course. That would be a big task to take on. But I am saying that we're talking about big questions that I believe are important. I hope you find at least some of them to be important. And I appreciate having you with me on this journey. I'm excited about teaching this, and we'll start getting more into the material in the next video. Thanks.